I almost unmuted the wrong microphone. Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Daniel Nelson, thanks for joining the Ace Maneuvers Twitch channel. We're going to be playing a little bit of Stud or Stinker. Have you ever played this game before?
No, I'm a really big fan of it in other card games, and excited to publicly display how terrible a card evaluation I am.
Yeah. Well, that's been kind of like a hot button topic, I think, recently in the community is card evaluation, right? We've got a new set coming out. People have had a lot of time to mull over the different kits, right? We've got the review videos out there on YouTube, and nothing has really made the skyfall. Nobody's really gone, things are way super crazy, except maybe, what, Twisting Azure Inferno and Recovery Girl?
I don't put Recovery Girl in the same conversation as Twisting Azure.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, Recovery Girl had people posting in shambles on Facebook originally, and then the only other card that I think has really made a major splash is that Twisting Azure Inferno, because that check bonus is just insane, right?
Yeah, everything else seems like it's like fitted to an archetype. Maybe nothing is like generically obviously good as like a haymaker or something.
Yeah. Yeah, almost everything has what I like to call a hoop to jump through. It has maybe not a cost, but something you have to accomplish, whether it's drawing 2 cards this turn, buffing the damage of an attack, having more ready foundations in your opponent, stuff like that.
Oh, I do have a hot take though.
Ooh, okay, I'm here for hot takes. Let's go.
Is that what's the name of that one diff foundation that's like flip you and your opponent draw a card?
Conflicting ambitions.
Chivalrous competitor.
Chivalrous. Okay, conflicting ambitions
Yeah.
is the old version. God damn it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been looking at old cards. I've been looking at old cards for this video.
Yeah, I think that card's nuts.
So yeah. If that card had air, I'd be so happy because air is like a little anemic on weird card draw. But it does have the all symbols, so I'm gonna definitely make an All Might 3 deck with it.
Yeah.
Like,
But one with nature. Oh, I think people have been going crazy about that one too.
oh, true. The one with nature reprint. Yeah, that one. I've heard people are like talking about that one in like back alleys. They're like keeping it hush hush. They're like, bro, I don't know if we're ready for this, but I don't think there's like as obscene card draw, and I don't think attacks are doing enough to themselves where one with nature will like obliterate you the way it used to. I did almost put it on this video as like the starter warm up, but I figured you of all people have definitely talked to some people who have played with one with nature and were, privy to its standard power level firsthand.
Oh, I'm slamming 4 of it in my Master Asia Ibarra list, along with 4 Chivalrous Competitor to fuel it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited to play it with any means necessary, right? Like just filter through a 50 card deck. And that's
my god. So I gotta edit my deck after this.
Yeah, so yeah, there's just that card has Earth now. Jeez. Yeah, so there's all kinds of really cool stuff, and now that we're seeing more reprints and what I would call retrains, where it's not exactly the same card. I'm so distracted by your cat hopping on your desk.
Oh yeah.
Cat's just doing cool acrobatics in the background. But anyway, yeah, we've got reprints and retrains coming up. So I thought it would be really cool to go back and take a look at older cards and see what the new player's evaluation of them would be, how they would stack up to effects that you might be used to. Because one of the things we hear a lot is just how powerful all these old cards are, but not all cards are created equal.
Yeah, I'm worried. I want to get into it, but I'm scared for sure.
Yeah, so I'm gonna allow you to ask one question per card. I'm going to allow you that much because there may be mechanics you're not familiar with. There might be just some relevant detail that you need, right? Because if I just throw you out in the deep water, at least you know the mechanics of the game. A lot of the times this is like a cross game thing where somebody who's maybe never even played UNIVERSUS would be trying to evaluate it based on other card games, but that would be cruel. That would be actually cruel, I think. So I figured I'd give it a test run with an MHA player. So are you ready to jump in?
Yeah. What is multiple?
Well, if that comes up, well, okay. So I hate you. My ADD is going to make me explain multiple, but the gist of it is you can spend momentum up to the rating. So if it's multiple 3, you can spend 1, 2, or 3 momentum, and then they are discarded. Then they're added to the card pool face down as essentially blank copies of that attack. They have all of the numbers, none of the abilities, none of the text. So
they have the cost as well.
What?
Do they have the cost as well?
No, you don't have to pay for them. The cost is discarding momentum.
Do they have like, if they, like, you look at something that has like a printed, or I guess printed wouldn't count, but if you like look for like 5 difficulty attacks and you multiple a 5 diff attack,
you don't have to check for it. No.
I know, but like if you're looking at something that's like, if you have 3 5 difficulty attacks in your card pool.
So yeah, so it would have the difficulty number. That is relevant because Terry One Dot used to reversal play attacks while you're resolving a multiple attack. Discard your multiple attack from the card pool, it now no longer resolves, and then would get bonus damage equal to the control value of the multiple because he didn't say printed. So because it didn't say printed, it would count the copied value.
Nope.
Luckily that won't come up in this video, but MetaHuman is correct. If it asks for printed, it would return to 0. So if you had an ability that said, like Mineta 1, I think, where says return to its printed speed, or anything that says printed, like return to a printed value, it would make it 0.
Alright, thank you.
So, number 1, we've got Gravity Hold.
Did that say the answer ahead of time?
No.
Oh, okay.
We've got... I had a little issue transferring over, but we've got Gravity Hold. Gravity Hold, as printed, as you can see, says 3 difficulty. Or how about you read it out for us? You've got it in front of you?
Yeah. So a 3 difficulty, 3 check, the 2 mid block, 2 low for 4 flash, breaker 1 ranged. This card does not count towards progressive difficulty. Oh, this is kind of gross. I feel like that has to be a staple. It's just like a free attack. And
it does have 3 keywords on it.
Yeah, it's got range, flash, and breaker. And does it... Oh, this card doesn't count towards progressive difficulty, so does it count on defense too? Yeah.
Now,
that's gross.
It does have flash, so you don't get an enhanced step.
Right. Yeah, I just feel like it's just so, like, you can still respond, right? Like, there's still responses that can affect it, and then if you're playing safety 3s and you're playing this like at the beginning of your string, it's like, it's just a completely free card, a completely free attack.
Would you say this is better or worse of a card than Crow and Frog Takedown?
Better. Well, it's a low. It's got breaker, flash. It's kind of interesting, but it's cheaper effectively than Crow and Frog and Crow or Frog.
You can pretty much always block it on a 5 as well. It's very slow.
Yeah.
Remember, you can ask one question.
Better. Oh, I can ask a question?
You can ask one question if you're struggling with it. So you think it's better than Crow and Frog Takedown?
Was it played in decks with lots of responses?
Huh. I would actually say no.
No?
I mean, if you're asking me if it's played, that's kind of asking the whole game, right? Like if it's played or not.
I still think it's better.
You can ask, like, was the card pool, right? Or the set?
What's the set? I mean, this is Mega Man, right?
Yes, that's Mega Man 3.
Mega Man 3.
That's your one question, actually.
Yeah.
I'm now answering all the questions. All right, what do you think? Stud or stinker?
Yeah, I think it's a stud, tentatively. Just because it seems like so free. Am I wrong?
All right, final answer? You said tentatively.
Yeah,
Stud or
yeah.
stinker, final answer?
Yeah, stud.
Stud, you are correct. It's a stud. This card was primarily played with characters that had form abilities, actually. Most notably, it was not played a ton in Mega Man 3, which was like part of the kit, though he did have a form ability to mill 4 Mega Man character cards, but it was mostly played in Zoe. And Zoe required you to play 2 attacks before you could get full value from her form ability. She had the form ability to build an attack face down from your card pool and then add a ranged attack from your card pool to your hand. So you could play this for free early, then play your next one normal difficulty, then ramp yourself a foundation and get a refund. Because of that, this card actually did get an errata. It got an errata to where it now counts towards progressive difficulty, and I believe nothing else was changed on it. So after that, they also changed Zoe, and it saw basically no play ever again.
Yeah, I was watching a bunch of videos from when Keenan Meadows was playing Zoe at like some Nats or Worlds, and I saw like a bunch of 3 diff attacks, I think, but I couldn't really tell from the pictures or the commentary exactly the cards, but I knew there was a bunch of like just 3 diff attacks getting thrown out.
Yeah, Felicia had like Toy Touch and Cheerful Uppercut, which were like 2 difficulty and 3 difficulty attacks. And
Cheerful Uppercut.
Yeah. Or not, well, something uppercut. Rolling uppercut. Rolling uppercut. Right. Felicia's happy in all of her card art too. She's happy to beat your ass, so. But yeah, so there was a bunch of just like little spam, and then from there people were like, oh wow, look at this card. Like, I can just slot it essentially for free. Not a ton of characters were worried about putting like stats on every single attack, and the decks that were at the time were playing like a bunch of 5 diffs that ignored progressive in different ways. So it definitely was something that kind of clued people into a better way to play the game, and for that it had to get axed. Carefully moving down here, we have our next card, 1000 Duels. This one is from the same set as Gravity Hold. 1000 Duels. Why don't you read that out for us?
Yeah, 2 diff, 3 high block, foundation with a 5 check. In your turn, flip, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, add all revealed slam or weapon cards to your hand, and discard the rest. I'm scared. It's kind of like a multiple choice test where like don't want to say the answer too many times in a row, so I'm scared to lead off with 2 studs in a row. But I mean, flip. If you're not playing like weapon or slam foundations, or if you can manipulate the top of your deck somehow, I guess that's a good question. Was this played in a deck where you could manipulate the top of your deck?
Again, you can't ask me if it was played, right?
Okay.
That's, you know, because it was funny on the first one, because I was like, they didn't really use a ton of responses with it, but you can ask like it's Nightman support, right? Like, did Nightman have weapon foundations might be a question, or like, were there cards that modified the top card of the deck? I can answer that. I can't answer what it was played in, because that is the question. Was this a stud that was played in its format, or was it a stinker?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so like in the format, were there a lot of cards or characters that could put like slammer weapons to the top of the deck?
There was not a lot of top of deck manipulation at the time. It does, however, look for 2 different keywords, and this was one of the premier weapon symbol sets. This was one of the first sets to put out I think entire attack lineups of weapons, right? Like the order symbol had Flame Man or Sword Man? Sword Man. He had flaming swords, but Sword Man had all weapon attacks, and this is Nightman's kit. Nightman had all weapon attacks as well. So, and they both cared about having weapon cards in the card pool, I believe. You know, they had combo weapons and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I see, it seems like weapon and ranged in this game get a lot of love.
Mega Man introduced a ton of ranged attacks, right? All the busters, and then of course the big thing about Mega Man is he takes the weapons from his opponents, right? In the E-Tanks. So, like, all the Mega Man boss characters have weapons. You know, they all shoot things. They're all ranged. Metal blades get thrown. They're weapon and ranged. And then all the bosses have slam attacks. Mega Man introduced the slam keyword. That actually was not a keyword until things like Proto Slam, Ice Slam. Those are actually not slam attacks. They just have slam in the name, and I hate that forever that they won't errata them. Please errata Ice Slam to be a slam. I promise it'll matter to somebody.
I think this is obviously like crazy because maybe it'll be super wrong, but it's like better latent skill, better the Destined for mainstream success. It's a little bit more expensive than Destined, but like one thing that sucks with late skill is when you like discard 2, you like draw 2 foundations, and you're like, well, I just cleared my good checks, and if I was looking to attack this turn, like I didn't get anything out of it, and this one just like dodges that, you know, like I guess you'd still discard the rest, but you don't have to discard cards.
This one also adds weapon assets or weapon actions. It's all weapon cards. So don't forget that Soul Calibur's chock full of weapon assets. Some of them are Omni blocks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how this couldn't be a staple. Like, it seems... The fact that it like, even dodges draw punish, you know?
Specifically not drawing the cards, adding to hand.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be a stud.
You're saying stud final answer.
Yeah, stud final answer.
Stud final answer. Well, it was a stinker. It was actually basically never played. UFS players naturally are naturally a little superstitious. 2 cards, not a lot to actually look at, and with no guarantee, most people are too big of a pussy to actually take the gamble. I don't think I've ever hit with this card. I actually played Nightman. I played a fuckload of Nightman when the set dropped, and I don't think I ever hit an actual weapon card with this more than once. Just with no way to guarantee it, and the fact that the weapon attacks actually weren't super good, and the slam attacks were all pretty meh, meant that it did not find a home. This was still in a format where people were playing really big, huge ranged attacks, and these symbols just weren't that present.
Maybe it's a bit different like in MHA, because like there's a smaller deck size limit, and then people are more aggressive with their attack ratios given the mulligan changes, so that would make this card just like statistically pushed a bit more.
Yeah, there's also this card in MHA I think would actually be fairly good. I don't think it would be like straight playable. It's also only on your attack, right? Like there's also times where you can't just like build it and then on your opponent's turn fish for more cards. Whereas Destined for mainstream and latent skill, you can immediately get that value if you need it. But this card absolutely not playable, and it's why I look at cards like Stun Grenade, and I just don't feel like playing them because I get to look at the top 3. I might not hit something, and then this is just like a 4 mid 4 stun one a lot.
All right.
Next one. Let's move on to Backflip. Here's our first action. Why don't you read out Backflip for us?
Backflip. 3 diff, no block. Response after you take 5 or less damage. Reduce that damage to 0 with a 4 check. Sits in the card pool.
Notably, for you MHA players out there, it has no block modifier, meaning you do not have the option to block an attack with this card.
Yeah. In this, what set is this from? Does that count as a question?
Yes, it would.
No, that's not a question. I can read it. Soul Calibur 3. In this card pool, was there any way to like gain advantage from playing actions?
Now this is one I did have to get Tim Keefe's help on. I did give him sort of like a tell me if this was a pass or fail kind of a evaluation. So I can't answer strictly that, but I can say that I don't know of any specifically action-oriented decks.
Yeah, I think. So I guess if there's like a way to recur this, like trying to think of like scenarios where this could be good. If you could like loop it somehow, like pick it up from your card pool, like maybe not clearing is actually good if you can loop it. And if you can reduce, like if there's some kind of response or something to like reduce damage to 5 or something, like you can take like 5 max damage and then you can pick this up, like then it would be crazy, right? So I think the fact that I think if this removed, it would be worse. But I think that there's probably some cheeky way to loop this, and this is a trick. So,
okay. So
for a third in a row.
If this card printed as is was in My Hero Academia, would you play it?
Trash
in My Hero. But you're believing that it's part of some cheeky combo?
Yeah, I think it's part of a cheeky combo where you pick it up or something. I don't know. I'm
Stutter stinker, Dan. Stutter stinker.
See, this is so hard because I just want to guess stud on everything. This is a lot tougher than that.
Go Beyond Gaming says this would have a 5 mid block in My Hero, and yet Recovery Girl's action is a +1 mid breaker. No justice.
Yeah. I mean, I just have to. I think, like, to me, this doesn't look like a very good card. But the fact that it has no block makes me think, like, that when they designed this card, there was something really good you could do with it.
Okay.
Or else they just hated it. They hated this character.
So you wouldn't play this as, like, a counter to Electric Jolt?
No. God, no. One
thing I do want to point out before you give your final answer.
Yeah.
If you read, Brandon Jones just pointed out in the chat. This says after you take damage. By the literal wording of the card, does it even work? Can you reduce damage after you take damage? Is this card actually functioning?
Is this card actually?
This card says after you take damage, reduce it to 0. Does that even actually work? Did anyone play this card?
It doesn't seem like it does anything.
You would not play this to beat Electric Jolt. Does it even actually beat Electric Jolt? Will we find out?
I mean, that they probably did some rules backflipping or something to make this work, right? Like, I can't imagine they just printed it. They're like, oh yeah, we messed that one up. Good luck. Like, don't play it, I guess. I'm sure they just ruled it to work.
Knowing what I know about UNIVERSUS' history, that is exactly what would happen. We know what it means to say. We're at the World Championship, just backflipping people all day in a big, giant, infinite loop of taking no damage, and the cards not even worded right.
I think the fact that it had no block means that it was designed in some way to be looped. Like the fact that it stays in the card pool and it has no block means like it was designed to be looped, and so they felt like they had to nerf it.
Okay. I can't wait to show you more non-blocks.
Oh god, I'll say stud.
Stud, final answer?
Yeah.
You are correct.
Ugh.
This card was a stud. It is functionally an omni block for a bunch of little poke attacks. Okay. You only ever have to check a 3, right? You don't actually have to deal with the speed of an attack. And because of all the different little modifications you can give and like certain damage resets, it was pretty easy to deny your opponent like on hit effects based on this card. Denying momentum, I believe, was also fairly important if you look at all the cards in the games past that just print momentum, that just add momentum from different sources. Momentum playing was a big deal. So big shout outs to Tim Keefe. Thank you for helping me out with this one. He gave that one a pass.
So I was right for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Basically. Basically, yes. All right.
I guess it's like better plus ultra for shitty attacks.
I think that one goes back to a place where attacks were lower powered, right? Like, people talk about old UNIVERSUS power level. There's 15 years of it. There's multiple companies that make cards, right? There's different rule sets where different cards have different power levels based on who's making the rule book at the time, right? So there's a lot of ups and downs, and I think Backflip was just a really solid, defensive piece at a time where not getting poked and chipped was important. Next up, we're going to have key techniques. Key techniques, if you want to read this one out for us. It is another non-block attack or card, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, let's see. We have 2 diff, no block. E, discard 1 card. This attack gets -2 damage. E, commit, discard 1 card, draw 1 card. The 5 check.
And that discard 1 card is cost, right? It is something you have to do before you can draw the card.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty flexible, but no block. 2 diff. These things kind of hurt.
What do you think? Key techniques, stud or stinker? It's all symbol, fire symbol, life symbol. I don't know if you know anything about the symbols' histories and their card pools.
Were there a lot of cards on those symbols in this card pool where it's like you wanted them in the discard pile?
I would say no. There was not a lot of discard pile recursion or counting on those symbols.
Well, there goes my idea. Trying to get like a what's the life card where it's like cards can't leave the card pool?
There's a couple of them, Showoken and Heo Ryoken.
Is there
Oh, go ahead.
Is there another one like a cannon, hand cannon?
Hand cannon, yes. Hand cannon says cards cannot leave your rival's card pool due to effects. It's much more limited than the other two.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was thinking at first like maybe with cards like hand cannon, where you like want to like put it in the discard pile and then like flip it to the card pool.
Okay.
With like another card.
Well, and hand cannon adds to their card pool, not from yours. So like if you played hand cannon and discard a card, it wouldn't do anything with hand cannon, other than you get to draw a card, I guess.
Oh yeah.
So notably, that E discard 1 card -2 damage, it is repeatable, right? It doesn't commit like the other effect.
Yeah.
But how important could 1 card be for -2 damage? This is a starter deck card. It's from the J. Talbane starter, back with the Darkstalkers Felicia starter. You would notice the J. Talbane starter mostly because it would be the one still on the shelf. All of the Felicia starters got bought out. The J. Talbane starter was not that popular.
feel like you're trying to trick me because I was gonna say I heard this set sucked.
Mm.
But,
Well, and the starter
maybe-
decks were comprised not completely of cards exclusive to the starter decks. The starter deck cards were, a lot of them, I think, except for the foils, were found in the set itself too.
Okay.
So that makes it not starter exclusive.
I mean, it seems like a terrible rate. Like repeatable filter. It's like this is standard, right? Like let's just commit, draw a card. Commit, discard card. Boo.
Well, and remember, when the Darkstalkers set, when the starter decks came out. When did Darkstalkers, the set drop, right?
I have no idea.
What
2014, I guess.
Yeah, what power level was that?
I don't know. Is 2014 like Grey Wars kind of era, or no?
I would say no.
It was Grey Wars pre-Jathko.
People would disagree with me, but yeah, Grey Wars was I would consider pre-Jasko. I would at least consider that Jasko has had an anti-Grey Wars stance.
Okay. Oh yeah, they're right. They pumped up the attacks. Right. I'm gonna say, Stinker. Just because like it seems like a bad rate. Like like both things are repeatable, which is pretty cool.
Well, the e-commit discard a card, draw a card is not, because you commit it. You'd have to ready it, which could be done.
I just mean like it doesn't flip. It's not like a one-time use.
That's true.
But like a card is so valuable. Like even in this game, like a card for 2 damage. I'm just not sure if that's a good enough rate on a 2-diff with no block. It seems like a tough, like when you're looking for your no blocks, I feel like you just want them to be more impactful than like a kind of like a generic value piece.
True.
So I'm gonna say Stinker.
Stinker final answer?
Yeah, final answer.
Stinker final answer. Well, the truth is that this card was indeed, in fact, a stud. This was a stud of a card, but
I know you're trying to trick me.
With the caveat that it was a stud in very few decks. The soft evidence I have for this card being a stud is that Garrett Brett would often run this as a one of at minimum on its symbols. So I trust in Garrett Brett, and it is the kind of card where if you can't possibly block anything, turning those cards in your hand into minus damage is something, and the average damage of an attack coming at you back then was less than 5. Now, the real deck that made this card an all-star and made it a stud is Clark. The KOF Clark was a 5 hand size, 34 health character that said after you take damage, you can make a control check of a 4+. If you pass, you draw a card, and you commit one of your opponent's foundations. And so this is a deck that would reduce all your attacks down to 1 damage. It would draw the card to replace that card that it discarded, and then commit your best foundation and beat you in a race. It would make it almost impossible for the average deck at the time to chip you down. And it was particularly good against decks that were based on stringing you, like decks that didn't have one big poke. So it is a stud, but only just barely, only for a very small time in a small niche style of deck.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it, I guess. Like my MHA brain is so addled by like all these nukes being dropped on you, like always being hit with like a cannon blast or a home run comet or an indiscriminate or whatever, like a burst.
Yes.
Like there's so many dunks that I'm just not used to, like people stringing out a bunch of 5 damage or less attacks.
Yeah, there was the deck that like started to take over immediately after this Worlds. Well, maybe not immediately, but like the decks that became popular to fight the control decks were like shield ram decks, where they would clear their card pool and draw a card after like every attack, and you're just like, look, if I need to deal 1 damage 30 times, I'll do it all. Like I'll just do it in one go. So yeah, it is a stud, but it is not the most stud on this list, and it is why I'm not necessarily using the term staple. I don't know if I would call it a staple, but you saw this card show up a lot on its symbols after this, just because the flexibility, right? There's not a lot of looting effects either. So
2 for 4. I can do better.
Oh, I should have had a scoreboard. I'll think of that next time. I should have had a little scoreboard on screen. Next up, we have Feral Fury. Please read this card out for me. Please let the chat know what Feral Fury says.
The fuck?
It's my favorite card on this list.
Alright, an X diff foundation with an X check with a plus X mid block, breaker X equals your momentum. Oh god. When you add this card to your staging area from your card pool, place X feral tokens on it. R commit. After your opponent discards momentum as a cost, they take damage equal to the number of feral tokens on this card.
Lots of X. It's a very modular card. Now this is another one I needed Tim Keefe's help on. This one goes back a little further than me, but it seemed like the perfect card for a stud or stinker competition once I had learned about it.
So on face, it seems scarily bad to have like 0 checks in your deck. Like,
that's true. It
like,
starts as a 0 check.
Yeah, just like at the like until you hit them. If you're playing this, you just have 0 checks in your deck and you have to live with it.
But it is a +0 mid block.
Yeah, that's great.
And it starts out as a 0 difficulty foundation, so even if you check it to play it, you'd pass it.
Yeah, if it's the first thing you're playing, for sure.
Or the second on a 1.
Or the second, yeah. Well,
how bad is a 0 difficulty 0 check anyway? Let's just put that out there. How bad would a 0 diff 0 check be?
Pretty awful. But okay, so I guess there must be like, were there any characters in this card pool that could like get momentum as a form?
Ooh, yes.
So I feel like in that case, that's pretty good because it's never
historically getting momentum is not that difficult.
Yeah.
It's not in every format, right? It's not necessarily relevant all the time, and decks that are overly reliant on momentum typically don't work. But I will tell you the most popular win condition from old UFS is multiple, which requires momentum.
I was gonna say that like this seems like a good counter to like multiple, especially if you have multiples, because you're just sitting there. Like you can get to a point where if you get their life to a certain value, they're just not allowed to multiple for lethal without dying. So that seems pretty good.
And you gotta think maybe there's proliferate effects, right? Maybe you just have like X tokens on it, and then you.
I hate the fact that you're
tokens.
like making me that you're trying to lead me towards this is a good card, or making me think it's a bad card again.
Hey, I'm just saying there could exist, hypothetically, I'm not trying to lead the witness, but possibly this character from Samurai Showdown might just have first F, add X cards from the top of your deck to your momentum. That is a possibility.
No, yeah, where X equals what?
Whatever you choose.
Whatever you choose.
That's a real card, actually. I shouldn't spoil that. There actually is. There's like a mill deck, too, that's based around putting all of your opponent's cards in their momentum before they can spend it. So they don't cycle. They just, like, when they go to cycle, all their cards are in momentum. They don't have a discard pile.
I mean, it seems like a scary card. But I think like if there's enough free momentum, you could get this thing to a point where if momentum is what the format's win conditions depended on, you can just like lock them out of their win con.
A lot of times when a card dominates a format, it counters itself, right? If it's a card that cares about having a lot of momentum, and having a lot of momentum is how you win, having the card that also rewards you for having momentum to punish momentum could be the most important card in the format.
Yeah.
You also have to ask yourself, what's the likelihood that a card with this many variable, like, numbers didn't get errated or banned, right? Like, if it's a really good card and it's got all these adjustable variables on it.
Yeah. The set name kind of scares me, though.
The set name? What's the name of the set?
The set name on the UVS is SNK Fortune and Glory.
Yeah.
But like I've heard of Fortune and Glory before. I don't think it has anything to do with this card.
I think Fortune and Glory is a Red Horizon card. I don't think it has anything to do with SNK at all.
Gotcha.
I could be wrong. I should actually look that up. I almost put Fortune Teller on this list, but that one seemed a little too obvious.
Fortune Teller?
Yeah, if you've ever seen that card.
Oh yeah, that seems absolutely nuts.
Yeah. So, stud or stinker? By the way, Fortune Teller is one of the cards you would need if you wanted to make UVS Turing complete. Just putting that out there.
Okay.
At least I'm pretty sure it would be. There might be some other way. All right, stud or stinker? Feral Fury.
This one's the toughest one for me. I think stud, but like if the win cons in this format don't rely on momentum, it's probably pretty bad.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say stud tentatively.
Okay, so you have seen the card Feline Spike before.
I don't think so.
Don't look it up.
Oh, okay.
That card, I might use that card later.
Okay.
We love Feline Spike in this house. So you're saying stud, final answer.
Yeah.
All right. Feral Fury was, in fact... Oh. Go. No, it's not working for me now. Give me a second. There we go. Stinker. It's a stinker.
Yeah.
My PowerPoint did not want to work for me. Feral Fury was, in fact, a stinker. It is a zero check, like you said. It is not something anybody wants to deal with. It having all these different X's and numbers and yada, yada, yada. It's more of a liability, and if you're sitting on enough momentum where this is really impacting the board state, you're probably able to just win the game, I think is how it typically goes. Also, the symbols. Symbols are a big part of this, where if your symbols just aren't that good, one cracked card still won't see play, right?
Yeah, these are all fair things. I just need to learn that when you're leaning me one direction, that's wrong.
Have I led you? I feel like I've done a good job of leading you to both conclusions.
I don't know, Sam. All right.
You know, this
Go
card...
2 for 5.
This card, I think, is the only card that has X, or has a 3 or more variable values on it, too. I don't know if that's true. I know that there's another one that has, like, a variable control, I want to say, and I know of at least one other variable difficulty. And there's a variable damage attack out there. But that card is very obvious whether or not it's a stud or stinker, so...
Okay.
Let's move on to our next one. We've got... Powerful Style. I know you're a big fan of effects like this, Dan, so why don't you read this out?
It says 0 diff with a 2 mid block. E, if your attack deals damage, gain X vitality. X equals 5 minus your attack's control. 5 check. Life gain always sucks.
Life gain always sucks, huh?
Especially this, like you have like capped vitality, like it's not, you can't even go infinite. It's gotta be.
It is a zero diff though, and it's a free enhanced to play.
I'm snap stinking.
Snap stinking. Okay.
Yeah, the life gain sucks. Like every
Life
card
gain
game,
sucks.
I've never seen it.
No, you have no questions on this one?
Oh yeah, no questions. Was there a card that said when you gain vitality, win the game?
Yes, actually.
When you gain,
It was not. It was
verbatim.
It was not on these symbols. Actually, this card is in fact a stinker. This one. This was. This one was like. I know it's not going to be like a trap question for you, but this is a card that was live in a life gain format. I was hoping you would ask me, is there like a lot of decks that cared about that effect? And it's true. That was alive during one of the more prominent life gain formats, I'm hearing. But the thing is, it didn't share a symbol with Battle Prowess. If you've ever seen Battle Prowess has 3 different symbols, and it has an E-commit effect for massive life gain. So it was, it's like E-commit gain life equal to a difficulty on an attack in your opponent's discard pile. So if your opponent plays Feline Spike, which is a 7 difficulty attack, you now have a 1 diff that gains you 7 life, and you can ready it, reuse it, etc., etc. So life gain was actually important, but not on those symbols.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, E commit gain 5 is a little bit different than like E gain 0 to 1.
Right. You can gain. You can gain like 5 minus the control. So if you played a 1 check attack, you could gain 4 life.
Oh, check.
Yeah.
Got it.
It would have to, but it would have to, like, on average, Powerful Style is supposed to gain you, like, 2 life on a 0 diff. That's kind of neat and would actually be kind of busted in MHA, I think. But the fact that it has to deal damage in the first place, and its symbols just didn't care about it. That was a format where you had to, really just one-hit KO your opponent if you wanted to overcome these life gain decks.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could play it in, like, K2 on all.
Yeah. And it doesn't say, most notably, it doesn't say non-throw.
Yeah.
So throw decks are just grinding you out. Like, you block a throw, you take 3 damage, I gain 2. Sick.
I think in like kind of grindy mirrors, it could be decent, right? But like I feel like games end in this card game so many times with like a big like 1 turn sequence. And it's like that life gain is not doing anything in that. Like you just sit there and be blank card, and then your opponent wipes you out from full vitality, and it did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you have decks that are built on dealing damage multiple times throughout a turn, or multiple times in general, they're going to try and do it all in 1 turn, right? It's not the kind of thing where I'm going to accrue a bunch of value over multiple turns. I'm going to get, as much value as I can right now and probably be set up for 1 big swing. But that's kind of player preference. I don't know if that's strictly baked into the game or if that's just how we take those mechanics, because it is very scary to let your opponent draw 6 new cards.
Yeah.
The untap gain a new hand makes it much safer to try and backswing the opponent most of the time. And this card doesn't actually help you do it. It helps you grind your opponents out. So let me get back to this scroll here. There we go. Alright. Next card. Heaven's Punishment. What does Heaven's Punishment do?
6 diff, 3 mid block, 4 mid for 6. Range combo E. This attack is unblockable. Chaos E, discard a momentum. This attack gets multiple 1. The 3 check. Was there a way to cheat out this effect?
There is in retro now. You can use Takeda to staple this combo effect onto any other combo attack. So like they don't have to like if you have a combo that says combo attack, it's just any attack, you can use Takeda to put that ability, the unblockable ability, onto that other attack.
Yeah, so I'm really leaning Stinker here because there are so many damage resets in this game that even like it's such a high like hoop to jump through if you're not cheating this out somehow, like really efficiently, like a 6 diff that's a double combo, and then it's
go ahead. No, keep going.
And then like it looks terrible into like a Tetsu like effect or something, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like that there are just like enough answers for attacks that kind of duck the blocking aspect of it. That it's such a high requirement for an unblockable attack. Like I know another card, like in Spike 2's kit or something. And that card,
Spike 1, and that was printed in 2018. That was the first shark jumping power spike set.
Oh, okay. You're right, Bebop.
Yeah, Bebop was the meteor that ignited a lot of the race car style gameplay. Like they had tried it with Turbo Man because of the whole race car thing, but it really came to a fold with Bebop.
I mean, just having seen that card, like this one looks so much worse in comparison that it's hard to say anything but Stinker. Now, I'm sure, like, I don't know, maybe it's like there's like some stupid combo where you play this 50,000 times in one turn, but
well, the character Natali, who's in the art, right, and it's her symbols. Natali 1 gives a check bonus to play cards based on the block modifier. Like she can discard a +3 block mod, and she has +4s in her kit to get +3 to a check. So you can essentially play this on a 5 check in her. And then Natali 2 just plays it for free. She literally just says form commit, you pass your next check.
Yeah.
And it has the multiple keyword on it. You do have to kind of double up your momentum cost, which, you know, if you're printing momentum, like hand over fist isn't a big deal, but
I mean it has multiple, but like it's not like the multiple can become unblockable or anything.
Correct. It would not have the enhance abilities. So you're saying Stinker final answer?
Yeah.
Alright. This
Don't
card
say it
was,
like that.
This card was in fact, oh, it's not moving. Alright, come on. A Stinker. This card was in fact, I don't think I've ever seen anyone actually play it aside from tossing it into Takeda decks, which have a million better ways to kill you already. I think the last time the Takeda flavor came around, it was actually a mill deck, and it made you draw a million cards. There's a combo attack that basically makes both players remove their hands and draw the combined amount. So it's like 6 + 3, we both draw 9, then you do it again, we both draw 18, and you just keep doing that as long as you can. This card is just too costly. You pretty much nailed it, right? Like it's 6 difficulty. There, you have to play 2 cards in front of it. The symbol locked multiple gaining ability just never really seemed relevant. And then by itself, if you don't fulfill the combo, it's one of the worst statted attacks for a 6 diff. So pretty much nailed it on the head.
Cool.
Let's move on to... Oh, did I put this on here twice? Oh, I put Feral Fury on here twice. You might be down 1 card that I sent you.
Yeah, you put it on there X times.
I put it on there. Exactly. For as many times as I had momentum. So that one is again a Stinker. Let's move on to Master of Masters. This is a very interesting card.
Okay. We have a 2 diff with a 3 mid block. Discard a momentum. Discard 1 ally attack from your card pool to 5 check. Koji Koda could never.
He would lose card draw, right? Well,
He would.
He commits a foundation to ignore progressive, right? But this lets you keep your foundations ready, but it's only ally attacks.
Oh, it's only ally attacks.
Who likes ally attacks? Ally attacks are always garbage.
Can you give me a raw count of the number of ally attacks in this format?
I cannot off the top of my head. I can tell you that there was a starter deck's worth of them. So, like, you know how Deku and Bakugo have, like, the starter deck? So, like, there's just a million punches out there.
Yeah.
Dr. Wily was a starter deck character, and then he had a 2-dot, and all of his stuff was pretty much ally. So
can I read Dr. Wily?
I'll say sure.
Doctor.
I couldn't stop you anyway if you wanted to cheat.
I know. I can not do it. I haven't found him yet.
Yeah.
This is a Tamarin Cardwell guy, right?
Yeah. Tam's a big fan. Jose is a notable Wily player. Kevin Broberg loves Wily too. And Kevin Broberg loves moving cards around, right? He loves clearing his card pool. He loves drawing cards. He loves all the triggers and things like that. This card does share a symbol with Reki Meki Maru, which every time a card leaves your card pool, Reki Meki Maru can draw you a card and give bonus damage to your attacks based on how many cards have left your card pool. But it's a 3 mid block, and it does literally nothing on... Well, I guess if you block with an ally attack, it does something on defense. But how much momentum are you really going to have?
How much momentum are you really going to have? Apparently momentum is pretty cheap in the old game.
In the legacy game.
Yeah, back in the old world before we moved to Jersey. Momentum was cheap and the wine was better.
So is this a card you would play in MHA, right? You just talked about how like Koda would never want to get rid of those juicy ally attacks. What about after he draws cards? After he's committed all his foundations, would you play this in an MHA deck?
Maybe. I mean,
is there an ally fury card? Maybe in MHA you could combine this on the death symbol with nitro ignition. Get like infinite card pool clearing.
Yeah, I was thinking one of the oh yeah, true. I was thinking about Tokoyami, but it's not on symbol with like nitro explosion. And like into like an ally. I guess Crow and Frog. But that's kind of stupid. I think it seems really strong. But I can't like evaluate it with the MHA card pool for sure because there's just like no allies really. But assuming there's like any number of allies that are playable, like I think all the allies that I can remember from standard like pea shooter and stuff, I don't think they're on these symbols.
Okay. Pea shooter is on life, water. It's not earth. It's void. It's life, water, void. Yeah, none of these. I thought it had earth for a second because it's a plant, but
yeah.
It has life because it's a plant.
I mean, it wouldn't be good with pea shooter anyway.
Yeah.
But it seems really like anything that ignores momentum or ignores progressive, like I think is always worth looking at.
And it doesn't commit, right? It doesn't commit, it doesn't flip, it doesn't remove.
Is this just like a inverse Shigaraki 2?
Well, it's like half of him, right? He's remove a momentum to remove a card.
I thought he got momentum somehow.
He gets it and he spends it. He spends it to remove a Fury attack from it, but when you deal damage with a Fury, you can commit a foundation to get one.
Got it.
So this is like one half of him, right? Like on a foundation. if there's just any character that can put the pieces together, right?
Yeah.
Or
I don't know
even
though. Like in the Mega Man set, like there was that like I remember when I'm thinking about like tournament videos, like it's people playing like Zoe type stuff, where there's like slinging a bunch of like cheap attacks that don't count towards progressive anyway.
right.
Um, so if people are doing that, then this card looks pretty bad.
And this
Um,
this was printed 3 years before that event.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. So would it not have been legal?
No, it still would have been legal probably. Cards, 10 sets in rotation meant that cards were legal for a very long time. Cards were
Oh
legal
yeah, it
for
wasn't
about
4 sets per year.
yeah, cards were legal about 4 to 6 years, I think.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
I think Battle for Power technically just rotated with MHA coming out, so
I mean, it seems like a stud. You could do it on defense too.
stud or stinker. What do you think?
I think it. I think it's got to be a stud, but it is like so heavily dependent on the ally card pool.
That is the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, stud. Final answer.
Yeah.
All right. Master of Masters was in fact a master of nothing. It is a
Oh.
stinker. The ally attacks were actually all balls, and there was basically no momentum for it. Like there's not a ton of momentum generation. This card could have actually been nuts later on, as one of the chatters pointed out. It doesn't have ally on it itself. If it had slotted into the Dr. Wily 2 decks, where it cares about ally foundations, like ally cards can get built down, you probably could have seen it get played. If it survived just a little longer, there actually would have been some really crazy plays you could have done with it, where you get a ton of momentum and you have certain ally attacks like Moon Ritual Dance and things like that. But unfortunately, it was just right in the middle. It was right after momentum was really easy to get, and right before momentum became really easy to get again, and like had things to do with it. There weren't a ton of decks that could really string together ally attacks super effectively, so it ended up not being played.
Rip.
All right,
Alright,
we're
4 for
coming
8.
up. What's up?
4 for 8.
4 for 8.
Yep.
We've gone through 12 already.
What? We're
No,
through
there's-
8.
4 out of 8. You're
Yeah,
4
yeah.
and 4. You're 4. Okay. 4 and 4. Okay, so you got. It looks like 2 more. We got 2 more, so you could end up potentially being tied, right? You could peel away and have a nice 6-4. You go over 500.
Let's go for at least a coin flip.
Yeah. We gotta at least hit the coin flip, right? We're gamers. So I have another action for you here. It is Blasting Through. Is Blasting Through a stud or a stinker?
Oh man, the non-block 3 div action. Are your turn. Discard a momentum. After your unblocked face-up attack resolves, you may attempt to play it from your card pool. Before your attack's block step, return it to its printed damage and draw 1 card. The forward check.
It replaces itself in that case.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it's got no block. It costs a momentum, and then
Yeah.
you still have to play it with normal difficulty. Like, there's no way this card could be good, right?
Damn. They're killing me. So trying to evaluate it like multiple, right? Like it's worse multiple in terms of how it's costed. All right, because so like let's say you play an attack, they don't block it for some reason. You respond, discard a momentum, and then you have to check the attack again. Does it get too progressive?
It wouldn't be too progressive. No, it would be you play the blasting through, and
Yeah.
then you play it on the other side, so it would leave the card pool and then
Okay.
get played again. So
The freaking transit zone.
yeah, if it was like a
Um,
frog kick, you would get to ready something, so that's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, the
But frog kick
okay.
didn't exist back then, so
So it's like a worse multiple, right? Like you get the abilities again, but it's
Yeah.
like just play another copy of the card that doesn't cost a momentum.
the way I like to think about it is it's like a 4-check version of any other attack in my deck. Like a big issue with Go Beyond is this is very similar to Go Beyond, except it tutors from discard, but it's another 3-check, right? Like it's another, like this could technically be my 5th copy of Back Alley Haymaker with a 4-check.
Yeah, it also though does say discard a momentum, and you did tell me that 2014 was not the era of free momentum.
Well, was this a 2014 Mega Man card or is this a 2017 Mega Man card?
It says 2014 at the bottom of the card.
Well, there you go. You read the card. Hey, it's not my fault they keep printing Mega Man says. I should have used the reprint art.
Yeah, it does like say like unblocked attack too, unblocked face up attack. Like there's so many hoops you gotta jump through just to play the same attack again. That was already non-threatening enough that they didn't block it.
Hilariously, I don't even know if it would work with a multiple copy, because the multiple copy wouldn't have like a difficulty. Well, once it
Well, it's
leaves,
not face up, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but I'm saying like even if it didn't say face up, once it leaves, like all of it being a multiple would like refresh. It's like no longer face down to play it again. I don't know how that would actually work.
Yeah.
What do you think, stud or stinker? It also hates on damage hate, right? It also.
Yeah, like that's I'm kind of scared. Like I want to say stinker, but what's scaring me is that like if this is the era of cheap attacks where you're just like reducing them by 2 and like that's your big play.
Yeah.
Then this could be okay, I guess. Like replacing itself and then returning something to like 5 damage.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do like the track you're on with it's kind of like multiple. That is how a lot of people thought about it. You know, it is a lot like if I get one momentum, I can multiple out like a big attack. Blasting through was a lot like that. If I get one momentum, now my best attack I can get like a multiple copy of, but it also has its enhance abilities. You know, if you blasting through on a 4 difficulty attack, it's still just on a 5. But again, there's a ton of hoops, right? It doesn't just have to deal damage; it has to go unblocked.
Yeah.
This was in the kit of a character who had basically Shinso's ability, his form, where you would pick a zone and block modifiers of that zone would get +2 for the turn. And then if you partial blocked his attacks, he would give them 4 damage. So you would get punished and probably take like double damage if you partial blocked.
I mean, that sounds cool. I just don't know if the momentum was that easy to come by, and like the unblocked attack is what is really killing me here, because if it's your best attack, it's very likely like the thing that a good player is trying to block and like anticipating. So the idea that you get to play your best attack twice probably happens only when you're just like winning anyway. So to say,
I was gonna say, how many times has your opponent like played an attack and you go, okay, well I know I don't get to block this one. It's not the one that I block.
Yeah,
but you don't wanna take 2 from it, right? I also see this card kind of like an Ochako 2 kind of sense, right? Where it's like all of a sudden it's all stuff I want to block.
But it costs a card and a momentum.
That's true. It does.
And it stays in your card pool. Like, yeah, and no block. Oh, God. Every time I see the no block, like,
I love that you're hung up on the no block part.
The no block is what's scaring me, but
Yeah,
I'm
because
gonna.
cards, some of my favorite cards have all been no blocks. Revoke is a no block. Oh, we love Revoke.
I'll just say stinker, and if I'm wrong, I'm gonna be very sad.
You're gonna say stinker. Final answer. Too late. You can't change it. You can't change it. You said stinker. This card was, in fact, actually the biggest stinker. This card had a ton of hype around it. I remember, at least for a small percentage of time, just because of exactly that rhetoric. People saying this is the best card in your deck twice. This is a 4-check version of your best attack. At the time, if you've ever seen Divine Tribulation, that card ran rampant over a format. It was Desperation 3 difficulty, and then it could basically multiple out like a 7 damage attack. And so people were really hyped for stuff like that. It was, however, a little bit before the era of multiple cards that like fuel themselves. The best multiples became cards that gave themselves momentum, which is just really disgustingly broken and should never be done again, like ever.
Is that from Science with Love?
That's one of them. I've won an event with that card. That card is fucked up. The other one is, I'm trying to remember. Was it Cowboy Battery? No, that one clogged their pool. Bubble Lead. I think Bubble Lead was one. That one didn't see play, but it should have. Like, competitive play just kind of got annihilated when Bubble Lead came out. And then they, like, cranked the power level up so bad after that, like, it was pretty insane. But Bubble Lead fueled itself. There was second chance. There's a lot of momentum tutoring, yeah. Anyhow, I'm going to ruin... Yeah, Ryan did top with Bubble Lead. That's true. Bubble Lead was a real ass card, and when Sayla came out, I think I wanted to play that card again because she cared about basically doing the exact same thing Bubble Lead did, which is stuff your pool, I get a momentum. Very unfair. Like, imagine if Sticky Balls also gave them a momentum. It was like that.
Yeah, and you got to play another copy of the attack. Yeah. Cool.
All right, so we're down to the last one. You're one up. You're one ahead. This is basically to be considered a winner or a drawer. This is to find out if you are a stud or a stinker yourself. Because as we all know, the integrity of results says that people who get ties are also just losers, and you should never feel good about tying. Stop playing slow.
1 point.
It's one. You should actually feel very good about tying in the last round. If you can confidently tie in the last round, you should actually feel very good. But this is it. This is essentially for all the marbles. Are you ready, Dan?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do you feel like you have a great grasp of the game now at this point? Do you feel like you've learned anything about the history of UFS?
I've learned I'm terrible at evaluating foundations.
That's true. I think you've been pretty good on everything but the foundation. Well, no, I guess backflip.
I got that one right.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's right. You thought it was part of some infinite combo, which I thought was really interesting. And I'm like, yeah, if that was a thing, I would love to just backflip people to death.
Well, backflip people to like not die.
Well, I mean, you know,
just mill them with a backflip.
I can't wait till they reprint Dodge. So here's our last card. It's called Press of Death. This is one of my personal favorite cards to ever get printed in this game that I've never held in my hands. But it is one of the greatest cards ever printed. Would you like to read this for us?
Yeah, Press of Death. 5 cost, 3 mid, 3. Starting off strong. Ranged. If this attack deals damage, add it to your staging area and place 3 ice tokens on it. We love tokens. Remove 1 ice token from this card at the beginning of each turn. If this card has 0 ice tokens on it, discard it from your staging area. While this card is in your staging area, players may not play abilities printed on foundations. It's a 1 check.
And if you can see in the artwork, he's actually freezing Dimitri solid. And Press of Death, he's using his little ice ghost buddy there. And we're going to freeze Dimitri solid. So what do you think, stud or stinker? This is almost like I like to see it almost as like a what is it? Swords of Revealing Light, but in UFS almost.
Yeah, was this in the Grey Wars format?
Dark Side. It should be. This should be Grey Wars era. I'm not 100% sure this is one that I did have to get help from Tim Keefe with.
So it's like, if this is like the Grey Wars, what's like the foundation is like everyone's like building to 30 and like sitting there and
in the Grey Wars, the biggest thing was you had to have more abilities to play than your opponent.
Yeah.
You had to have more cancels and they had cancels, right? So I'm gonna say for Grey Wars that would be anything like pre 2011. It's just the only way that I know it. I don't know anything like beyond that. So this is a pre 2011 card. This is a pre Jasco design.
It's like, because if it's in that time period, this seems like a decent way to not play that game or to like kind of break through.
Like if you're like an aggro deck, right? You just want to jam all these big ass attacks, or if you're like maybe it'd almost be like flashing things.
Yeah, but what this does say, it does say this 3 mid attack has to deal damage.
True.
It is also a 5 diff with a 1 check and no block. I missed the no block at the beginning. Wow, these stats seem terrible. Wow, these stats are bad.
And yet, all you have to do is hit somebody, and you turn off their entire stage.
Oh, your entire stage too.
Yeah, but you don't need a stage because you built a deck that is turning off the stage. This is also at a time when turn 1 attacking wasn't banned.
Well, sure, but you're gonna check the 1 on this shit.
I mean, if you're so determined. Yeah, this shipping the 1 check with the no block and it's only 3 damage. You're probably not actually playing this in an aggro deck, right? Like, you'd have to have like some really cool control piece. Maybe you've got a card that says, you are immune to the effects of Press of Death. Maybe you've got like a card that's like, oh, your opponent can't stop you from playing foundations or abilities. Maybe you just have a cranked ass character ability and you just want to make it like my character versus your character.
That's fine. Like what I'm having trouble wrapping my head around is in what world does this 5 diff 3 mid 3 hit somebody?
There are characters that could turn it into a throw.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure that, like, when players do have a bunch of foundations, I think they can deal with a 3 damage throw somehow. Most likely.
Yeah, it's a tough sell for a 1 check, right? It has to be like absolutely just bonkers over the top. But
your rhetoric.
It would have to like win the game as a 1 check, right?
No, okay. So you like,
because that's what old heads always say. They say like the 1 checks now just aren't that powerful anymore. They want 1 checks that immediately win the game, or it's not worth playing. And this one doesn't win you the game. This one wants the game to go 3 more turns.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that the older cards were more like that. Those formats were more foundation centric, or at least not as attack centric. And that like the.
Oh, go ahead.
I feel like I heard that most of the power was on the foundations.
That's true. It's Grey Wars, right? It's all these, like, you need these foundations to operate. One thing else to keep in mind, it just says played abilities. So you could build a deck with really strong continuous effects on your foundations, and it's not affected by the ice tokens.
Yeah, that's fair.
It also doesn't hit assets. You could be building an assets deck where
you're really depending on hitting them with this one. If you build your whole deck around this, you're really depending on hitting them with this 4 of in a 59 card deck at the lowest.
Well,
One check.
Face Shield never existed before, right? Face Shield is brand new for MHA. So you got to think how many effects out there existed that would prevent it from dealing any damage if you were to use a card like what Lies Ahead on it.
I mean, think just like I'm sure that there's enough DR cobbled together to like reduce the damage of a 3 damage attack. Like it's not like it's like a 3 speed for 10 and like you turn it into a throw and like they're like, oh man, I can -4 it, but I'm taking damage, you know.
It's actually pretty funny. I almost never played any damage reduction when I first started playing the game. It's basically like that Clark Key Techniques deck and then 8,000 degrees. And then like instead of reducing damage, most decks would just gain life. That was actually the damage reduction in the game. You would just partial with Templar, take 2 damage and gain 2 life.
Was what era was Blasting Through from?
Blasting Through was from 2014.
Or not Blasting Through, Backflip.
Oh, Backflip? That would be Grey Wars, like pre-Jasco.
Yeah. Cause Backflip just kills this card, right?
Well, I mean, it's on a 3. Well, like any mid block.
It's on a 3.
Any mid block works, and it would be effectively on a 3, right? Like this is just a 3 mid 3. The main thing is, you'd have to spend a card to beat it. Like, do you even want to? What like?
Do you even want to?
Your opponent could use this against you. What if you had a better stage?
Okay, I mean, I think that this card is, if you could somehow cheat it into your stage.
Ooh, now he's on the. Oh, well, I shouldn't say anything.
But even then, it would have 0 ice tokens on it, like unless you're really going for some spaghetti.
Some proliferation, maybe.
From proliferation, that has to have a token on it.
Well, I'm saying you could like keep proliferating and keep it there instantly. You can transfer tokens.
But how do you get it there, man?
You could make a card that's a copy of this card that has tokens on it, so it would copy tokens onto it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say you said it's so hard because you said this is your favorite card that you've never put your hands on, and it's like I have to imagine like it must have been part of some combo.
Well, it's a super old card, and like getting a hold of really old cards is just an issue. I'm a big fan of cards like Swords of Revealing Light, and like I don't like tokens though. That's the worst part. Is like I hate tokens, so I'm not a token guy.
Yeah, I think it's a secret just because, like, I just like unless there's like some foundation where it's like this attack gets flash and it's unblockable. Like, I just don't understand how you hit someone with it. Maybe it's just there's no throw hate, there's no DR, it's all life gain format, and yeah, you just threw this at someone and every card had no block on it, so they just couldn't block it. But I don't know.
It does have the ranged keyword though.
Sure. Sneaker.
You're gonna say stinker?
Sneaker.
Stinker final answer?
Yeah.
Daniel, why would I put my favorite card on here if it's a stinker? Why would I tell you it's my favorite card if this card was a stinker? Why would I do that?
Yeah.
But it's a trick question because all my favorite cards are stinkers. I only like bad cards. It is in fact a stinker. Congratulations, my man. You went 6-4. Really good. That's really good. These card evaluation things are really difficult.
Yeah, that was an incredibly tough one because like it felt so obviously bad. I'm like, I have to be missing something.
Was it as hard as you thought it was going to be? Did you think it was going to be easier?
I think the foundations were tough because like there's I
think this is what got you, right? The 1,000 duels.
The 1,000 duels. Yeah, the 1,000 duels seems so cracked in My Hero. Like, just imagining that in like an order like you could like build like an order weapons deck, and just slam 4 of that in there.
Yeah.
And like with the new Eraserhead attacks, like where you can like ignore progressive and there's 3 diffs and stuff, it's like you could play everything too. So I think that card gets better in like with a smaller deck size and with the new mulligan rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets a lot better where you just have more weapon cards that aren't attacks. And that's really, I think, where it struggled in Standard was weapon foundations were things like E-Destroy, this attack gets +4 damage, only playable if your opponent has a card in their card pool. And these symbols did not have a way to force cards into your card pool unless you're playing the rest of Nightman's kit. So it's one of those things where you could not make enough of your deck a weapon or slam card. Now slam is way more prevalent than it ever was back then. Weapon is its own archetype practically in both Standard 2020 and My Hero.
Yeah, all 4 of the ones I got wrong were foundations.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 foundation, which, you know, I think I actually am just bad at evaluating foundations, probably in MHA as well. Like,
Key techniques is a trick question because key techniques requires like a nearly infinite, a pseudo infinite combo, right? Like, it's the kind of thing where I'm going to take 2 damage off this attack and then refund that cost. So that one,
yeah, that's true. When I think stud, like a lot of times I'm thinking like this is a 4x.
It was a 4x in that deck, and it was. And again, Garrett Brett did play a lot of this card, but Garrett Brett really valued like the E-commit draw 1 or discard 1 draw 1 effect, I think. And he plays decks where you have 9 cards in hand at the start of your turn, and then you don't review and you just keep drawing more cards. So like for him, a card like this would benefit him a lot more than the, I guess, average player. You know, not too many people start their turn with more cards in hand than their printed hand size.
Yeah. He does hate Tongue Whip in Mei Hatsume, though.
He hates Tongue Whip, I think, in everybody. So, and that, you know, that's like a perfect example, right? Where like even the best players, even like the most accomplished players in our game will have like controversial takes, and it makes it tough. Oh, I think you got Powerful Style, right? Yeah. You didn't.
Yeah.
You just said all the ones you did get wrong were foundations, yeah.
Yeah.
But it gets pretty tough. It gets tough to do, like, especially when you're doing commentary for the game. Like, you know there's people who are going to disagree with you. And I don't think other games have that issue. Like, you can just be like, this card is really good and a staple, and, like, it's in a championship table, and you won't have people saying you're wrong. And in our game, people will be like, this card actually sucks.
Yeah, I think like the only exceptions come when there's like a big breakthrough deck.
Aww.
Where it takes like
what a great
like
cat.
Yawgmoth and Magic, where people are just like not playing the card for years and years, and then someone puts together like a critical mass of something.
Yes.
Or like Vanity's Emptiness in Yu-Gi-Oh, where like nobody plays it, and then suddenly it's like banned.
All of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, this card is busted now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to avoid doing multi-format cards. There are some cards that were like basically unplayable and then became absolutely bonkers in like a retro legacy format. But because of the history of the game and the way that like the ownership and the design has been, there's cards that were clearly never designed to be played together. You know?
Yeah.
There's just cards that like nobody ever once thought that these cards would be put together or really cared if they were, because if someone was doing that, they're having fun at their locals probably. You know? So I did want to try and avoid those, and you know, Gravity Hold might have technically been really close in the same way as Key Techniques. I don't think it was like super prevalent on like all of its symbols, but it got errated because people were talking about it becoming, you know, omnipresent. So they wanted to kind of nip that in the bud immediately.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine that card in like uh, like Ibarra or something. I don't know. Seems
And
nuts.
at the time, I think Gravity Hold came out when Breaker 1 was maybe at its most powerful. So that's part of it too. Like Templar lost Breaker 1 shortly after this. Mm-hmm. Everyone is convinced it was a printing error. They say it was a power level errata, but they announced it after the card got printed, so I don't think that's the case. I think it was a printing error, but we'll never know. But it lost Breaker 1, and this is when string decks and like the check 5s take lives archetype was really starting to like get fleshed out and be like a play style rather than just like one specific deck that can do this. Because the first time I really saw it, it was a Shield Ram deck, which was either BB Hood or Pharaoh Man. And you basically were just trying to play as many Shield Rams in a turn as possible. And decks just like weren't equipped to block 6, 7, 8 attacks in a turn. And BB Hood puts 1 damage on stuff, and if the attack deals double damage, she gets to draw a card. And so your whole stage is like little +1s, little repeatable +1s. And it was like Tokoyami if Tokoyami got to draw a card every time he hit you.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Yeah, but he trades check balances for card draw, I guess, instead of check bonuses.
But you get to play cards that don't count towards progressive.
Right, yeah. You get to clear your card pool a lot. And so that was like the first time where it really became like just play as many cards as you can. And so Breaker 1 on this card came out shortly after that. Now we're at the point where you can power over Breaker. Now we're at the point where, like, okay, I have 1 additional foundation to commit. That's fine because my attacks are, like, so good. Back then, if I'm committing an additional card to play a 2 low for 4 back at you, you know, even if it doesn't count towards progressive, this might cost me too much now, so.
Yeah, I think it's easier to evaluate attacks because you can think about attacks more in a bubble and like think about them like during the combat phase. Like, okay, if I play this, like, what am I accomplishing with it? But like your foundations, yeah, the foundations they depend on the attacks, you know, for the most part. Besides like just like value stuff, like flip draw a card, you know.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is more obvious, but stuff that like interacts, it kind of like, it's kind of like answering a question that you have to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, it when it comes to a staging area card, they're pretty much never alone, right? And they almost never do anything strictly by themselves. Whereas with attacks, especially by today's standards, we really, really, really care what they do only by themselves. And I think that's a really good observation that as it goes on, it's probably going to be much easier to evaluate attacks. I did think that Powerful Style was going to get you. On its face, I think it's probably good that you read the card wrong. Because on its face, it looks like a lot of life gain. And for styles that people play now, like imagine you knock a Jiro down to 8 life, and then she just plays like 3 double jab pummels at you in a turn, like 5 attacks in a string, and you're just like, man, every time I don't block one of these, she's gonna gain 2. That would be rough.
I just don't really think that. I think even now, like people would play it, but I just don't think. Like I think if it was a 0 diff, especially if it was an off-zone block, and it did any other type of utility interaction, I would play it over the life gain, just because I think that the most powerful offenses are always going to be able to like 100 to 0 you.
Yeah.
So life gain on your turn feels worse.
Yeah, and that's something that's very difficult to balance with the resource system we have. As soon as you print a 5 damage attack, if you can pass 4 of them in a turn, you can theoretically kill 7-handers, right? And that's the other thing is hand size to health hasn't changed a whole lot. You go back, there's some stuff that's wacky, and it does go everywhere from like 14 to 44 or whatever, but on average, the hand size to health is about 719 and 627. That's about where they're at. So it's easier to look at things where the six-handers of old still had to take 28 to die. The six-handers today still take 28 to die. The attacks, tell you how much damage they're going to do.
Hey, how about they had to put that 30 health on Zangief too, though, the four-hander.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. Let me see if I can bring that up, actually.
He was too strong.
Zangief. 632, 430. Is this the one? Let me see. Can people... Yeah, they can see it. Alright. Zangief. Archimate, discard 3 momentum. After your opponent cycles their... He responds to you cycling? I swear I've seen this before and I forget it exists. It's so bad.
This is the worst card I've ever seen in this game.
It might be the worst one ever printed. Obviously, maybe he has some super busted card that's hey, if your hand size is less than your opponent's, you get to search your deck for a card or something, but I don't think so.
I don't think so. He's a four-hander with less health than Ochako too.
And his other
cycle.
ability is dissolving the conflict. Holy fuck, man! He air ground smashes like a fucking champ, I guess.
Hey, he's never gonna get milled on stream though.
Yes, he will. You could easily mill this deck because you fucking... Oh my god. All you'd have to do... all you'd have to do is shuffle 2 cards back into your deck once. One time a turn.
No, every attack you play, he gets to put a card back in his deck.
I'm not attacking this character. I'm blocking everything he throws and denying him momentum. He better get momentum in a different way than attacking me, because you're not getting the board presence. And he'd have to be mono throw in a format with almost no throw hate to get momentum.
Yeah. You should include this one though. Just don't record this part. Then give someone some.
I mean, we're still live. Oh man, yeah. There's been some really just. Has there ever been a good Zangief? That's the real question. There's one that burns you for 3 if the last card in your card pool's a throw. That seems okay. That's still not a great character. Alright, anyhow. Let's wrap this one up. Thank you for joining me, Dan. I had a ton of fun. Hopefully you guys viewing in the chat had a ton of fun. Hopefully you're watching this on YouTube and you had a lot of fun as well. And please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I'm Sam Tate. This is Daniel Nelson. We are both UnFun Stuff sponsored players. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Good night.